You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. With spring practice about to start on Saturday for LSU, and a lot of spring practice beginning around not only the league but around the country, we're starting to look at a lot of the projections toward the 2025 college football season. And I know we often talk here about the SP Plus rankings. We had Bill Connolly on the show to talk about them. Well, a component of that is strength of schedule. And Bill Connolly did release his SP Plus strength of schedule ratings on here this week. And the thing that's going to be somewhat jarring is that all 16 of the SEC teams are in the top 25 in the SP Plus strength of schedule rankings, which is pretty remarkable to see it that way. I believe like Wisconsin maybe is number 4, and it's the only non-SEC team in the top 13. It's a staggering number to see that. I'm looking at we had this up at Louisiana Sports on Net. I'm looking at the SEC teams and where they rank. So a couple of observations here. Earlier this week, Jake Crane from Crane & Company was with us, and he pegged Oklahoma as his sort of surprise team. Of course, they brought in John Mateer at quarterback from Washington State, arguably the best transfer quarterback in the country. I am still very skeptical. They brought in Ben Arbuckle to be their OC from Washington State. Brent Venables is going to call defensive plays. He was asked why. He said, because I'm good at it. Okay. But Oklahoma is a team that went 500 last year. Really struggled on offense. Look, they're working to fix it, right? You brought in Ben Arbuckle. You got a new OC. You got a new quarterback. But even if you're better, it might be a thing where the record may not show it. Because Oklahoma, again, has the number 1 toughest strength of schedule in the country for next season. And we always talk about it here. If you listen every day or watch every day, you've heard me say it. It's not just about who you play, but when and where you play them. When I look at a preseason projection, it is fewest questions against most manageable schedule. Oklahoma is going to play Michigan in the non-conference. For some reason, they're going to play at Temple. Now, Temple's not any good, but that's still a road non-conference game against a G5. They've got Auburn, Texas, at South Carolina, Ole Miss, then back-to-back at Tennessee, at Alabama, before they're home against Missouri and LSU to finish out the schedule. Like, you could see a world where Michigan, at South Carolina, Ole Miss, at Tennessee, at Bama, LSU, those 6 games right there are all games they could lose. You could throw Missouri in there for good measure as well, though the game is in Norman. I mean, what if you go 3-4 in those games? Your high watermark 8-4. They happen about that in Norman. It's better than 6-6, but is that what their expectations are with Brent Venables and with that program? No. Also, when you look at the rest of the SEC, the bottom in the strength of schedule, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Missouri. Remember, you're playing your same conference opponents from a year ago, just flipped home and away. So it's the same identical schedule from a year ago as far as opponents in the league. You're just flipping home and away. So last year, a lot of people picked or were high on Ole Miss and Missouri and Tennessee and Texas because the schedules were easier. One of the jokes we made about Texas is like, someone at the league office gave him a piece of paper and was like, here, who would you like to play? Well, so this year for Tennessee and Missouri and Ole Miss, it's the same. It's just inverted home and away. But Ole Miss 23rd nationally, Tennessee 24th, Missouri 25th nationally on strength of schedule. The interesting thing is that for Texas this year, their strength of schedule is 12th in the country. And the big difference for Texas is they draw Ohio State in Columbus in the non-conference. And they've got to go to Florida, which looks better. And they got to go to Georgia, which is, of course, going to be tough after Georgia won in Austin last year. So, look, there's some breathers. They still get at Kentucky, at Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, and Arkansas. And those are 4 games that Texas should roll out of bed and roll. But adding Ohio State in the non-conference on the road is a giant challenge there that certainly alters their win-loss projection at Texas this year. And remember, if you're looking at 10-2 being your baseline to get in, you open up at Ohio. Similar thing with LSU. You open up, if you're Texas, you open at Ohio State and you lose that game, hypothetically, I mean, you got one more game to play with the rest of the way. And you still got to go to Georgia. So if you assume a loss at Ohio State at Georgia, you got to be flawless the rest of the way. You can't have a hiccup at Florida. You can't lose the Red River rivalry. You can't throw up on yourself at Kentucky or Mississippi State. You got to play well at home against Vanderbilt. You get A&M at home. Like you gotta, like, there's no margin for error if you're Texas trying to get in the playoffs and you lose to Ohio State and at Georgia. So just something that jumps off the page when you're looking at these strength of schedule rankings. And then I always look at the hot seat coaches. It's one of the things we do every year when we go to SEC Media Days. I'm always curious who's there for the last time. Now, this year, no SEC coaches were fired or left. There was no turnover. All 16 coaches from the league in 2024 are back in 2025. But Sam Pittman, Arkansas has got the number 3 strength of schedule in the country. Mark Stoops at Kentucky, number 8 strength of schedule in the country. Kalen DeBose, I know they went 9-3, lost the bowl game 9-4, but you're already starting to hear those conversations. What if they follow up 9-3 with 8-4? The number 11 strength of schedule in the country. Hugh Freeze at Auburn, 2 very underwhelming years where you haven't seen the progress that many thought you would a year ago. I certainly was in that number. I thought Auburn was a sneaky sleeper team in the SEC, and they just didn't figure it out offensively. While Auburn is 15th in strength of schedule, there's only 3 teams in the league that have an easier schedule than Auburn. It's all relative. It's still the 15th toughest schedule in the entire country. Can they get it right? Of course, you bring Jackson Arnold over from Oklahoma to Auburn. Can Hugh Freeze figure that out? Just a few things that were my observations. For what it's worth, LSU 9th in strength of schedule in the country. OU, Florida, Arkansas, Vandy, Mississippi State, South Carolina, Kentucky all have a tougher strength of schedule than LSU at 9. So LSU at 8, smack dab in the middle of the SEC rankings as far as strength of schedule. So a few things from Bill Connelly's SP Plus rankings on strength of schedule, which are coming out. Tigers at the practice field for the first time in spring on Saturday. And we would all presume Kyle Williams will be out there with LSU as their new defensive line coach. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.